Next, we will be having a very exciting panel discussion on whether we're ready to embrace the new digital world. Before I introduce the speakers, let me tell you something about a very interesting and fun session that we have at this event. I know a lot of you would actually like to raise questions to our speakers on stage while they're speaking. So our partner PickPick has provided us this service. If you look at your agenda, you will find a QR code on the right bottom of the paper. If you scan the QR code with your WeChat or iPhone camera, I assume everybody has their cell phone today. So if you scan the QR code, you will be entering an interface, and if you click join discussion, you will, and once you log in, you will be able to raise questions. And for each panel, during the last 5 minutes, we will select the most likes and ask questions for the moderator to actually ask the questions to the speakers. If you don't have any questions, but you like some of the questions that are asked, you can like them. And please like the ones that you like the most so they can actually be asked on stage. If you have any questions, please ask our staff, our volunteers, and they'll be happy to answer. All right, now let me introduce our panel speakers. Mr. Xiaohong Lin with Voting Network, Mr. Eric Van Miltenberg with Ripple, Mr. Edison Yuan from 500 Startups, and Mr. Hao Chen from GBIS. And this panel will be moderated by Mr. from Honest Capital. Welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I normally tell people just to call me MK because I know it's going to give people problems trying to pronounce my name. So everyone just please know me as MK. It's easier that way. I'm very excited to be moderating this panel. I think we have people from a very, very diversified background that's on stage, and I really encourage you to listen to every single word everyone has to say because they all come from a different angle. And the topic today is about, are we ready to embrace a new digital world? So before we jump into the topic, I would really like to have everyone introduce a little bit about yourself and your background, because I read about your background. I know how diversified you guys are, but our audiences probably haven't. So maybe let's start with that, and we'll jump into the topic.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Hao Chen. I'm with GBIS, the strategic partner of Hobby. Yeah, I'm in charge of engineering and the product.
Hi, my name is Edith Yang. I'm the China partner for 500 Startups. 500 Startups is no longer 500 startups, and in fact, we invested in over 2,000 startups. Since we are in a blockchain-related conference, complete by accident, we got a chance to invest in Omise, which later on became Omise Go. I also invested in Lightyear. I really like Ripple too, which is the equity side of Stellar. Recently, we've been a lot more active in terms of looking at blockchain and token-related projects in terms of investments.
Good morning. My name is Eric Van Miltenberg. I head up global operations at a company called Ripple. We are a software company that serves financial institutions, banks, payment providers, and helps them with moving money around the world far more efficiently. We are based here in San Francisco, and yeah, I'll stop there.
Hi everyone, my name is Xiaohong. I'm the founder of Body Project. Body Project is a decentralized prediction market built on top of blockchain. So I started learning this area since like 2011. So I'm quite happy to see like blockchain as an industry become so popular and disrupt the whole world right now. And yeah, I'm very happy here to share what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so thanks for the self-intro. Because in my opinion, like when I read, like these four people comes from a DF background, a protocol background, investment background, and product background. That's why I'm saying it's very diversified, and I think it's just our today's topic very well. Because today we're talking about, are we ready to embrace the new digital world? But to start that, let's try to see like what everyone's opinion is regarding what is a new digital world? Like we are in a digital world, well, somewhat digital world right now. So what are some milestones or some differences, key differences you would identify between now and let's say the new digital world in your opinion or in your mind?
Well, to be honest, I think the word digital world, it sounds a little bit vague to me. I guess the digital world, it means the internet, because everything is online. And the new digital world, I think that's maybe something that blockchain could bring to us. There are some milestones from my perspective that might be very important. One is that the governments and regulators, they start to recognize the value of blockchain technology, and then they even endorse the companies to start using the technology to improve their products and services. Second is that some public blockchains, they get mature so that other companies can start building the applications based on them. And then third, I would say, I think many companies will realize that this new technology is disruptive. They will start to building in-house teams to work with them to improve their products. And then all the digital assets, digital contents like music, games, game items, those data could be put onto the blockchains and transferred. And the content creators, they can get rewarded somehow by cryptocurrencies. And then even the non-technical, the non-digital contents, like real-world assets, can be tokenized and then put onto the blockchains. It could be like a restaurant, it could be like a park, or even a city. I think that's gonna be fun. And then lastly, I believe that blockchain technology will eventually change the corporate structure, like how people will work with others and how people will get paid for their contributions to different organizations. I would say if all these milestones can be achieved, then it's going to be a totally different, it's a new digital world. Thank you.
That's a lot. So usually if I talk to some of my friends in the US, and I would tell them that if you want to see how a digital world looks like, just go to China. Then that's really already the most convenient. And a lot of my friends, whenever I go back, I take out any sort of cash, they look at it, they're like, what's wrong with you? Having said that, I think we're daydreaming, right? So let's say, I don't know if it's going to happen 5 or 10 years from now, but I just really, really love the concept of IPFS. And so the analogy I would make is that in Chinese, I don't know how to say it very fast in English, but 衣食住行 means like sort of our daily life. It doesn't matter if we're the clothes that we wear, the house that we live, or the transportation and things that we eat, or maybe even like medical service or storage, file, everything that we consume. Why does it have to come from a centralized place? Like, wouldn't that be interesting if I'm really hungry and you have more food, you just give it to me, and then you're gonna get reward. And similar with bandwidth or CPU, so the whole sort of various different nodes and be able to provide stuff. And obviously it's digitized by tokenize a lot of these things, but the actual consumption of everything that we use, we live on transportation, it could actually be really shared, truly shared. And I think that could be super interesting to think about.
Yeah, maybe playing a little bit off of the fellow panelists, as I think of the new digital world, you have to compare it to what is the old digital world. And we've seen over the last 20 years, you've seen over the last 20 years that we've gone from sort of an internet 1.0 where people were just getting online, understanding how to access this massive amounts of data, to be able to search it efficiently. Internet 2.0, more of the social media, user-generated content, the access of information at your fingertips via smartphones and broadband. And I think we're really on the cusp, as even I think some of the earlier speakers today mentioned that it's the 3.0 phase. And I think decentralization is at the core of that. Blockchain technology has the ability to remove the need for a central counterparty that makes things dramatically more efficient. And just to give you a little insight of how Ripple has looked at that, I think we're well on our way to pursuing this sort of 3.0 phase, is that we identify, the milestone is identifying a real pain point, something where blockchain technology has a real use. And for us, we saw an acute pain point around how money moves around the world. So it's incredibly inefficient today to send money across borders. And we think that's crazy. In a world where we can send a 30 gig video file from here to Hong Kong in a matter of seconds, and it's basically at zero marginal cost, and you're almost guaranteed it's going to arrive. The best way for you to take $10,000 and send it to Hong Kong right now is to buy an airplane ticket and go down to SFO and fly it there. That's crazy in an internet world. But the reality is that a lot of the technology to move money today is based on pre-internet thinking and pre-internet infrastructure. So we think about it in terms of something called the Internet of Value. The ability to move money around the world like data moves over the internet today. And I think that's just an example of what the new digital world could look like. But for us, I think it's one of the most exciting and compelling examples because that's far-ranging implications, not only for banks and financial institutions, but I think for really societies and economies.
Yeah. So yeah, in my opinion, like I always want to, when I was asked a question and about, for example, like this new digital world, my first response is like, why we need a new digital world, right? Because if the old one or classical digital world works, we don't need that. So we need to start to think, what's missing from the past, the previous digital worlds? Actually, I keep talking with my friend about like, the old world works really fine, but just like Edie said, if you want to experience what's a real digital world, go back to China. Why you have to physically go back to China? It's because there's something missing from the old digital world, which is the fundamental of a finance, but like basically like a financial foundation. This part is missing from the old digital world. So you think like internet is so like convenient and powerful to transfer whatever it is, but there's no way to transfer value. There's no way to like have native currency, native token built on top of internet. Whenever we use any like, for example, digital wallet, actually there's fiat back on that. When you buy some stock, that stock is physically recorded on some book in some place in Nasdaq or like Wall Street. So everything, when you feel like it's digital, actually they are not. They are physical stored in some physical world. So that's not a real digital world. And actually blockchain enable you that you can create a token out of like air, like nothing. But it's trusted, it's trustable, and it won't be lost even though like someone try to attack some centralized entity. The token, the digital currency always exists. So you own the data, you own the value, like really. It's not like governed by any like centralized party like a server. So it's kind of, for me, like it's more trust, like a trustless platform, but you actually feel very safe to own one piece of like resources you have. Just like IDF, it is mentioned, like previously you have no way to pay someone who want to share some like virtual resources to you, because by paying someone who can want to like lend you some storage, you actually have to pay him money, and he may be in Africa, he may be in China. How can you pay him like with like WeChat wallet or PayPal? They don't even have a card, they don't even have a bank account. So that's what's my definition of new digital world, where we have a built-in financial system, financial foundation on top of internet. Thanks.
Well, so from what I heard, it seems like internet is like the sort of infrastructure everyone was talking about, and the difference between the new digital world and the old or whatever we have right now seems to be how much of this convenience have we really utilized to really deploy technologies that help us to share value across the internet? And to that point, I think like there are a lot of things we need to get done before we get there. So our next question is going to be, now we talked about the milestones, our imagination, our daydreams. What are some realistic hurdles we have to get across before we can get there? Now I can start with one, because I was just talking to my friends before getting on stage. He's working on a hardware wallet. So I asked him, why are you working on a hardware wallet? And he told me, do you know what is the safest way, even with his product available right now, what is considered the safest way to store your digital currency or to maintain your private key essentially? He told me that the best way to do it right now, in his opinion, is pencil it down on a piece of paper and send it to like a bag and have them store it in the securest safe they have in the bag with like temperature and humidity control. And that's better than hardware wallet because hardware wallet can fail and that has a much unlikely failure rate. But by saying that, it means this is a hurdle, right? Like for us to talk about this new digital world, it's kind of ironic that the best way to save your value or to store your money is with a piece of paper and a pencil in it. That's just counterintuitive. So there are some hurdles like that or even more interesting than this that you think that we should get past or we need to get past before we get into this real new digital world we just talked about?
Sure. I mean, how do you keep your digital assets secure? Yeah, definitely that's a challenge to us at the moment. And there are more technical hurdles at the moment. For instance, like the performance and the scalabilities of those public blockchains is definitely, these are also the challenges for us to apply technology, blockchain technology, like in a big scale. And I also see some other hurdles like the legal and regulations. You could imagine that a bank in Japan, if they want to use a blockchain that is developed by a team in the United States, they will require the approval maybe from both the governments in different countries. So this, like the approval across jurisdictions, it's also a challenge for us to in the future. And one more example is that when we execute the smart contracts on the blockchains, what if it fails and then it causes some legal issues? How do we handle that? So yeah, I think all these are like hurdles at the moment. And lastly, I would say not many people right now, they believe in blockchain technology or they just don't understand much enough about this new technology. And there are still a lot of people out there who think that the cryptocurrencies are mainly used for illegal transactions. So it takes time for the market and users to be educated. I think these are the hurdles I can think of.
I have a lot of philosophical discussion with sort of challenges, and I completely agree with you on scalability, privacy, compliance, and security on the technology side. You know, obviously there's a lot of projects like Golem, Cosmo, Plasma, and Ileishi is working on a new thing, and Dong Song, a professor from Berkeley, are also working on some of these. But on the sort of not so technical side, compliance, sort of legal, there's a lot of battle going on, and I've been called as a classic old school VC many times, and these old school VC get really scared, like the government trying to subpoena us. I just don't want to go to jail. So there's that. But on the two other things, I really feel like right now, UI UX is, you just don't, like normal people, sorry, we're all normal people, but if you don't have at least certain education of what crypto, not even what the blockchain is about, it's very difficult for non-blockchain people to get into it. Third is, there are not enough blockchain developers in the world. I don't care how much money that you raise, you just don't have enough developers to really understand how to build this. And then, yeah, so last but not least, I think this year, 2018, is going to be the year of proof of concept. Because all these public chains raise so much money, but there's no real use cases. And I'm a fan of Bodhi, and you're one of the first person actually, when I started to get into it, explained like really clearly what prediction marketing is about. I'm like, okay, I get it. So we need some more like real dApps, but the real dApps will only work if it's scalable. So it's a little chicken and egg right now.
Yeah, I'm going to respectfully disagree a little bit with Edith, but it's along the same vein. I think one of the milestones, one of the hurdles that need to be addressed is moving out of a phase where we have a lot of sort of science experiments, where there are just proof of concepts and working with an innovation lab. Because for this to really take off, it has to show delivering real value at scale. It's somewhat quite obvious, and it's something that we've been dealing with for a while. And part of that is educating your customers on a new way of doing things. And we're working, Ripple's customers are largely banks, large financial institutions, and they are a very, understandably, conservative and thoughtful bunch. So it is not a small task to tell people who have been thinking about conducting cross-border payments in the same way for decades to consider another approach. And the good news for us is that we have moved past that. We've sold over 100 accounts. We have customers that certainly are in the pilot phase, but we have many, many more moving into production where they're moving real money from real customers around the world. So it's not an easy task. There's learning and there's pain along the way, but it really requires the persistence of understanding the customer, identifying the real use case, and then actually doing the hard work, rolling up your sleeves, and engaging them in a way that shows the value and demonstrates that. For certain types of customers, that happens relatively quickly. For others, it's a longer road. And then I just would reiterate what others have said around the regulatory and the government perspective. My perspective is that all these changes, the new digital world, this kind of revolution, if you will, is going to happen more from within as opposed to without. And what I mean is that working with regulators, working with governments, is going to be a better path to delivering the value we think exists, as opposed to trying to be that more. I heard, I think earlier today, panelists referred to more of a anarchistic approach, like governments are bad and regulators are bad. We think they play a very important role. It's a matter of helping them to understand how this technology can make an impact, identifying risks and mitigating those risks, as opposed to trying to mitigate or eliminate the technology itself. That's where the game lies.
Yeah, so to my opinion, I want to remind like everyone, like token, which covered by you, like it's actually one very critical part of blockchain. But there's another part, which is the infrastructure of the blockchain itself. So, to my opinion, like to reach to the next milestone, there are two major things we have to overcome. One is the infrastructure of blockchain. Right now, this area has become so popular from countries, governments, big company, or like a lot of celebrities or entrepreneurs. Everyone go all in this area. But if we look at like in depth about what's the current status of blockchain, it's really in the early stage. There's not enough infrastructure to enable you to build whatever application on top of blockchain. What Bodhi does, we want to build a 100% decentralized application without any single governed or like single control of application. Everything will be governed by the token holder. But to achieve this is really, really hard. Blockchain at this status have at least three major limitations. One is the block time is very long, means you cannot do very high responsive actions through it. Second, it cannot host big data. So means whatever you store is very critical and it's very limited. Third, you cannot do high performance computation on blockchain through smart contract, which means the logic itself will be as simple as possible, which makes it invisible if you want to do any like AI computation, deep learning stuff, right? So that's what I'm saying, like we need more people and do more research to bring the blockchain technology into the next status, while the infrastructure will be more and more mature. So second part to me is the user base. Think about internet. Why internet has the first bubble? It's everyone recognize the future of internet, the bright, the promising future of internet. But it become a bubble eventually because we see the future, but there's no infrastructure first. And for users, there's no user base. Nobody uses internet first. Like today, blockchain is so huge, but not everyone, I'm going to say actually only a few of people really own token, right? And not only a few people know how to, like even less people like know how to securely store and transfer and manage your digital assets. So without users, even though Bodhi launched our applications, who's going to use it? Nobody. And what's the value of token? There's no value at all. So that will actually drive what bubble it is. So to me, like we need more effort on make infrastructure more mature. Second, we need more user to easily learn how to use and manage digital assets securely. Yeah, besides of the regulation, like about the token that we really need. Thanks.
Cool. Wow, that's a lot of information. I hope you guys captured that. I just want to remind you guys that you can actually ask questions that you're curious about, or just vote on people's questions that you think that's good. From what I can see right now, I don't know if you're seeing the same thing as I do, but from what I see right now, only including the people who ask questions and people who voted, we have about 12 people in this room who cares about this topic. So that's not quite right. So please vote on questions, and I'm going to pick some questions. Our next group of questions is going to be coming from this screen. So I'll probably incorporate two of the questions here that has some high votes on them. So we'll be looking back to the challenge question. It seems like infrastructure is a challenge, and then also customer understanding is a challenge. Now, what do you think from your own practice, what you have seen so far? Like, everyone have their own customers. Like I'm an investor, so my customers are sort of like the startup projects or my LPs. How do you educate your specific group of customers about blockchain? Like, what do you find is successful, what's not, and what is the best way to do it in your opinion?
I can start quickly. I think it really depends on the audience. Obviously, it runs the range from very technical individuals and then sitting down and and having, it would be me, I'm the business guy, but having the technical folks actually explain into detail and remove some of the mystery around what the technology is and what it isn't is fundamental. But I think largely as we talk to our customers, it's about focusing on the benefits. Making sure you're understanding what the pain point they are, what their experience is, and then how the technology is addressing it in a way that is secure, that they can have confidence in. So I don't know if there's any magic in that, but it's really trying to understand the audience and then focusing on the benefit set as opposed to really getting into the weeds of explaining all the nuance of distributed systems and hashing, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so we built this body as like a protocol on top of blockchain. So we need to hope and help people who want to use blockchain to build like a prediction market on top of blockchain, so you can easily use Bodhi. We realized like at the very first stage, it's almost impossible to educate people or ask them voluntarily to learn what's our like protocol and like actively use it. So our strategy actually we are taking like a part of time to build the very first application by ourselves, and like on the way of building this, we actually tackle a lot of like kind of like some issue you will never experience when you build some internet application. For example, how can you provide very easy to understand user experience based on those limitations I described? Like when you click on the button, there's a transaction going through, and you would need to wait like 2 or 3 minutes for the return, right? So if you just stop there, then user gonna leave. So it's really sucks. So we actually make a lot of innovation at this point to try to solve the issue by still like relying 100% on blockchain, which is quite creative. And we feel very like excited about our current progress. We are targeting to launch our mainnet very soon. And if you are very curious about how our application, how can we build an application 100% based on blockchain, please like visit our website and you can download it and see how a real decentralized application feels and how it actually looks. I hope, I encourage everyone like can you like take our product as one example and inspire you. Maybe you can build like a better application, and I believe with that, more and more application will be used, more and more users will be educated, and we're gonna achieve what we want to do. Yeah.
I heard someone clapping. You should. I think that's really a good offering. And they have a booth right outside with really nice chocolates and a lot of smiling people explaining to you what they do, how they made it. So please visit them outside. Do we have any follow-ups?
So our business is to run a cryptocurrency exchange. So for us, it's also very important to lower the barrier so that more users can step into this market. So what we do is that when we improve, we actually work very hard to improve the user experience of our exchange. And meanwhile, we provide as much as possible like the information about each cryptocurrencies. We tell the users that what the history of this currency was and was about, what could we use this currency to, for. So we also organize a lot of communities for those customers to communicate with each other so that they can learn from other like users. So basically that's what we do to connect people, to create a community so that more and more people, like especially for those non-technical people, to join us.
So my customers are not the real customers. My customers are actually the project owner and the folks that is building token. And so there's two sides of the education. One is there are a lot of projects out there having nothing to do with blockchain. And everybody comes to me and say, we're going to do a token sale and ICO. I basically tell them, please do not do this. So there's a lot of education, so please don't do this, because otherwise it's just, you're trying to raise money for no particular, because you cannot raise fiat money. So that's that. The other side, because our customers are project owners and startups, founder, what I found actually recently, we're putting together more and more programs, working with corporate. And because, as I mentioned, all these public chains really need to address some real issues. So we're finding that more and more the conversations I've been having are actually with various different corporate, regardless is financial or healthcare or logistics, supply chain, food even. Like they want to work with certain, they need to pick and choose the right chain to work with, and we wanted to facilitate that.
Makes sense. Cool. Now, we're a little bit running out of time, so I'm going to try to squeeze in one last question here. It's going to be a very long question, but hopefully it doesn't require a very long answer. You guys ready? Here's the question. With all these uncertainties in the market, a lot of debates. For example, proof of work versus proof of stake, centralized versus decentralized, like technology versus scam, or like even utility versus security, right? A lot of debates are happening in the market, and even you have a lot of governments looking into this. For example, China just claimed that they're creating a state-owned or state-run operated digital currency. With all these things in the market, with a short period of time into 2018, we have about 8 months or something left. What do you think is going to happen in 2018 in your prediction that actually matters for people who sit down there who are listening to us? Long question. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I would say blockchain is just like the internet. It takes time for it to get mature. So I wouldn't say there will be a lot of things going to happen significantly in just 1 year. But what will matter most, I would say, maybe the regulations in different countries, in multiple countries will come up and will get more clear. That's going to be very important to guide those blockchain companies, how to operate their companies and how to connect their users, how to do the funding, how to create the communities. So everything will be regulated. I think it's going to happen very soon. And then regulation. And then second, I believe a couple of blockchains, the public blockchains, they will get matured. They will make like great progress in 2018. No matter its performance or scalability or it's the community, I believe they will make great progress. And then people will start using these blockchains to build business applications.
I'll keep it short. I think this is the year of proof of concept. Very supportive of like the public chain. They need some real use cases. And at least for 500 and myself, I want to play a role to really make and see more substantial use cases happen.
I don't know if it will complete this year, but I think this year you're going to start to see kind of a separation of the signal from the noise. I think there's a lot of projects and concepts that are out there that are interesting. There's probably nearly 2,000 tokens that have been issued. I personally don't know if we need that many tokens, just like 20 years ago we didn't know if we needed 20 companies to sell us dog food online. And Pets.com went away. So I think you're going to start to see those companies that they're solving real problems start to separate from those that are interesting, but they will fall more in the line of kind of interesting experiments as opposed to a long, sustainable business model.
So there are actually two possibilities for the future of this year. One is to the moon. Second is to the Earth, right? So yeah, I mean, market-wise, nobody knows the future. It's really hard to predict. For the past years, I've been making a lot of great predictions. All of them are correct. But actually, early this year, I tried to predict what's going to be for the early this year. I bet there's going to be a very huge bull market, but look at now, it's really bad, right? But I want to remind people again, if you experience what's happening during 2014 and 2015, that's really just a winter. Price-wise, it's really there's nothing bull sign or even bear sign. It's just keeping flat for a long time. The whole industry is like that. Nobody is actually working on that. And even there's some startup trying to build some cool stuff, there's no user, there's no infrastructure, they all fail later. So we may fail in a stage where it's in a very bad stage situation, or investor may lose a lot of money. But to me, again, this technology is real, so it has a lot of power. A lot of people actually overestimate the future of the near future of some technologies, but you kind of underestimate the big future in the long term. So for me, I think if you are interested or you want to involve in this area, I believe if you learn the technology and use the technology in the real scenario, you're going to benefit a lot, and you will be the market player instead of you become one of the market follower. So that's one of the suggestions, and also in terms of prediction, I really have no idea, even though I'm building this prediction market.
Trump is here to stay.
All right. Since I mentioned, I think we have quadrupled the amount of people who care about these topics. But unfortunately, we do have 0 out on our time left on the stage. So everybody, please round of applause to our amazing panelists. We'll be around. Find them and ask them more.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.